Good day to you one and all. It is I, Justin Hawkins. Recently I spoke to Rick Beato. It was a long-form interview, over 2 hours long. And today I'm going to share a shorter clip from it that I think many of you might find interesting. In this clip, I asked Rick the question that I get asked the most on this channel. How do you make it in the music trade? What do you need to do? What are the channels and mediums, and who do you need to talk to? All that stuff, and I suppose the reason why that's always going to be a pertinent question is because the music industry changes so frequently. It's always evolving or devolving depending on your point of view, and I think he had some really good and realistic tips. If you'd like to watch the entire conversation, the link is in the description. Here's my theme tune. Enjoy. Justin Hawkins rides again. You know, I always talk about, on my channel, I'm always going on about the music trade and the way it's changed over the years. You know, in the music trade has changed from being a product to a service. And it's left a lot of people discombobulated. You know, if you spend enough time unemployed and trying to break through, and then the game completely changes, and then you're just watching the goalposts move. How do you make it in the music trade? People always ask that.
How do you make it?
How do you make it in the music trade? How does one make it? What piece of advice would you give?
Be good on TikTok and YouTube.
Yeah, that is actually profoundly great advice.
Yeah, I mean, look. In the old days, when I played in bands, you couldn't. If you were 30, you were always 29. If you were 35, you were 29. If you were if you were 25, you were 21.
I've been 28 since 2003.
Exactly. So there was always a band. Our labels never wanted to sign people that were too old, and I would ask my A&R friends, are like, well, because they don't know enough that they get you. Once you get to a certain age, you don't want to go on tour. You don't want to do the work that it took to get where you needed to get. And do all the free radio shows that you used to have to do. Back
you think it's that? So in the olden days, 28, for example, would be considered too old for the artist to be malleable and,
Yeah, and want to do it. They wouldn't have girlfriends. They wouldn't be married. They wouldn't do whatever, boyfriends or whatever it is. They would, once you get to a certain age, you start having obligations or whatever, and it becomes more difficult for people as they get in their late 20s and early 30s, and labels didn't want to sign those people. They might want to have families or whatever, and they get responsibilities. It's easier with people that are...
So it's nothing to do with how good the music is.
Nothing to do with how good the music is, which is always ridiculous. And When my intern Rhett said, "Why don't you start a YouTube channel?" when I was 54, I've said this a lot of times, nobody's going to watch a white-haired guy on YouTube talk about music. Well, that's actually not true, because I'm thinking like A&R guys were thinking.
You've been indoctrinated with that school of thought that once you get to 25, you're past it.
Right, like who's gonna watch some white-haired guy in his mid-50s talk about music on YouTube? Well, apparently a lot of people actually, and that goes to show you that it never, because labels never signed older people. They did actually. That's actually not true. So Sting was born in 51. They put out their first record in 1978, so he was 27. Mm-hmm. You can go back and look through the history of music and find people that got signed that probably lied about their age and got signed later.
I'm one of those.
Yeah. So it's and so you can find these things to disprove it. It's not the artist. It's always just the A&R people that wouldn't sign the people. When a great song is a great song, and I think that's always been the case, and people will get behind anybody, doesn't matter how old they are.
People will, people will. The populace.
That's right.
But it's interesting that the gatekeepers would only be interested in signing stuff where they're not old enough and self-actualized enough to be able to say no to things that are counterproductive to things like their mental health, their family conditions, you know.
It's terrible, but that's the way it used to be. But it's not that way anymore.
It did used to be like that, and I think that that sort of speaks to the trauma of actually being famous, you know, like that you get pulled from pillar to post, you're told you have to do this, the rules are spoken upon you by the people at the label, and all of it is based on the fact that they can manipulate you in that way. And then you get spat out at the end of it when you do get to 28 and washed up, used, discarded, and traumatized. Yeah.
It's, I wouldn't not work, and I hate using double negative there. I wouldn't not work with a band because they had someone that was older in it. The question that was asked about what you do nowadays to try and make it, right? Well, maybe some of those same elements that made those people who they were work on TikTok and work on YouTube and work on Instagram. That somebody that's interesting to look at, because these are the things that to me would make stars, like somebody that is interesting, not only has the talent, has the songs and music, but are interesting to look at, you know, whether it's Steven Tyler or Robert Plant or, David Lee Roth or Eddie Van Halen, whoever it is, they were just,
I mean, I think it's, when you put it like that, it makes me think, should we be relieved that that's the barometer? How good you are, how good you perform on TikTok, or how your TikTok audience reacts to what you're doing. That's better, I think, than talent show format and free people at a desk telling you whether you have what it takes.
Yes, let the marketplace decide whether you have what it takes. Yeah. That's what I love about YouTube. I mean, TikTok, is I post on TikTok and stuff, but YouTube, because you can do long form content on YouTube, is the absolute best platform, because it's not a social media platform. This is the difference. YouTube Shorts is, like TikTok, right? And Instagram's kind of a different thing, but YouTube long form videos like this, people on my channel like long form videos, and they like short form, videos 10 minutes or less. And the audience has their vote, and that's ultimately, you don't have the A&R guy. There is no middle person there, right? Mm-hmm. Saying, oh, I think this person has a hit. This is what the interesting thing, when I talk to, Chris from Nirvana and Kim Thayil from Soundgarden, and I ask them the people that signed their bands, and it's never the people that take credit for it that I've met that took credit for signing them. They always mention completely different people, which are probably the lower A&R people that actually were the ones that found him and got him signed. And they're the only ones that they remember. They don't even remember who was head of A&R that took credit for it their whole career, So, but now you've gotten rid of all those, and the audience just votes. So it is better, I think.
It's funny because when it was kind of game show format, stardom, I suppose the person I'm thinking of specifically is obviously Harry Styles, because he's in movies. He was in the probably, I don't know what the numbers were like, but I reckon One Direction must have been competitive with the Beatles in terms of some sales, right? Or
oh yeah, huge, massive, yeah.
He's got his solo career, and he's a fashion icon and stuff. But all of that came from three people saying, oh yeah, you should do One Direction. Don't go home just yet. Go and join the One Direction.
Yeah.
And do you think that, it feels to me like the charisma that he has is a learned thing. Do you think it's something that's been, because at that point, that's when the A&Ring starts, I think. When you've got past the Simon Cowell moment, he'll put you in a room with some people that will say, right, wear this, do that, make friends with that person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or am I just imagining that? I don't. Cause it's the pop world. I have no idea how it works really. I mean, you and I operate in rock and metal, so
it's a lot of the artists that get signed now, not Harry Styles, but a lot of the artists that get signed now are people that have become big on social media. I mean, that's just, and they've proven it there. If they can do it there, that's it, because that's where you have to be popular, is on social media. But maybe it's that, maybe you can sign, well, it doesn't matter, because once you've dispensed with the record labels, it's direct to the public. The record labels had the distribution and all that, and now none of that matters.
Record labels are these are desperate times for a lot of people in the music trade, but labels are really struggling. I think that's why 360 deals are really prevalent at the moment, and everybody wants to, they want to be able to take a bit of your live and a bit of your merch and everything, really, publishing. But I think that in the olden days, like an A&R person or somebody like the Scout or somebody would take a chance on a thing, and then there'd be an infrastructure in place at a record label that would develop the artist and help them to make records that would get them onto the next level of their career. And now there's nobody takes any chances. There's less money around, and they'll only look at you if you have certain social media
if you're already successful.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the thing. Basically, it's like the time the labels want to sign people is when they're already successful. Now you've already proven it, and then there's no reason for the people to really go with a major at this point, because it's not going to prevent them from getting on playlists or anything like that if they already have a following. And the deals that people have to do now, people that have made it on TikTok, labels, 3 years ago would be doing 80-20 deals with them, where the artist would get 20%, which historically is a lot of money. When I was in signed bands, you get a record deal, you get 13 points, 13%, and then you'd give 3 points to the producer, 1 point to the mixer. Okay, so you're really getting nine percentage points of. So 20 points is a lot. 20 percentage points is a lot. But then the TikTokers would say, okay, well,
sorry, just to interrupt you. That everyone used to talk about points, didn't they? It's like that's that's the back end earning, isn't it? So the points is
yes,
after a sale.
As a producer, historically, a record, let's say, would be $10. Would be what you get your points from. So a producer gets 3 points. So they would get advanced $3,000 per track. If you did a 10-song record, you get $30,000 and 3 points. Record recoups, you start making, so 3 points would be $300,000 per million, because it'd be out of $10, so it'd be $10 million. So it's 3 points. So it'd be
paid over to the artist.
That's right. Yeah. So that's how you do it. So you'd have to have, as a producer, to make $1 million, a record that sold over 3 million copies, which is a lot of records.
Okay, but if it's 80-20, it sold 3 million copies. Sorry, this is going to be difficult maths. Hang on.
So if it's 80, but nowadays you're not making that kind of money, because you're making streaming money.
I think what I was looking for was the startling figure that the label was making.
Oh yeah, they're making insane amounts, right? So
actual like a septillion.
So they'd be making 87% of the money.
Yeah. So if it makes 100 million for if it makes 200 million for an artist like, for example, Michael Jackson, that means there's a further 800 million that's been made by the label, right? Did I get that right?
No, if it makes 200 million, the percentage, the division it's 87. The label would make 87% of the 200 million, and the rest would be distributed between the artist, the producer, and the mixer.
174. They'd make 174 million then.
Okay, that's 87%. Is that? I mean, it's insane, right? It's an insane amount. But Michael Jackson didn't have those kind of deals, because back then you'd have these escalations. If you sold 1 million records, you'd get your points would go up, and if you sold 2 million, it would go up, and you'd have a graduated scale typically. So,
but I think in a way, like in the olden days, that kind of split would be that's justifiable almost, isn't it? Because the
label took all the risk,
took a chance, and they advanced you some money, and they helped to develop you, and they supported you, protected you,
paid your tour support, everything. Yeah.
Tour support is almost a thing of the past. I mean, it definitely exists, but not in the same way. Not in the same way. You know, the idea of a development deal is preposterous. I mean, why would you do that? You know, they just sign things that have got millions and millions of followers and cash in.
That's right.
So what do you think the splits are now on a traditional record deal?
Okay, so then they went from 50-50, then they went from 80-20, 80% for the TikTokers that had huge followings, and 20% for the label. Nowadays, some of the TikTokers, they don't even do deals because there's a direct pipeline from TikTok to Spotify. Some of the biggest TikTokers, there's this kid Jake that has a huge TikTok following, and he's got about 10 million monthly listeners on Spotify. And
wait a minute, when you said that, you're like. You suddenly went into a existential despair.
I'm actually looking. I'm gonna actually look this up right now.
Who's Jake then? What kind of music does he do?
Pop. He does videos with his mom. This is how he started out, where he pretends like his mom is a producer. I think it's JVKE. Yeah, JVKE. Okay, so he's got 20,900,000 monthly listeners. Sorry. Yeah. He has one song that has 244 million streams, and 215 million, 49 million, 101 million, 10 million. This is on Spotify. So you can imagine how many billions he probably has on TikTok, but he's making very little money from that. But these streams, that's a lot of money. It's millions of dollars he's making from this. 20 million monthly listeners. That's insane.
Are these short form songs almost that are sort of designed to fit within the?
That's right.
You know, the TikTok attention span type thing. Is it like a minute long or something?
And so the clips would be 1 minute long, and then these songs would be. These are 3 minute songs.
Okay, so they've elongated the songs at least, haven't they?
So they play the intro usually through the chorus. They would get through. Maybe you have to abridge the intro, but there's a little bit of acting that goes on with it too in his case. So he and his mom started doing things where his mom pretended to be the producer. And I know this because I watched a video that Vox or Wired or somebody made on the TikTok to Spotify connection and how the streaming, they've studied 129 hit TikTok videos and saw which ones were successful on Spotify, and the people that were actually making real money over on Spotify, because there was no money on TikTok. It's unbelievable. Now, does he have a record deal? Let's see here. I don't know if he does. I don't see a label name here.
Wow.
I don't see anything that says he's on a label, but
straight out of TikTok.
So he probably right from TikTok, right to Spotify, right to the bank account.
TikTok's almost an imprint in itself with a built-in,
that's right,
promotional department that is the artist.
That's right.
Amazing.
So I think that's really what TikTok's probably going to do. That then they'll just be the record label then.
Yeah.
They already got the people.
Yeah.
And maybe they just control how many spins you get, and if you don't sign with them, it'll be go back to old school music business, right?
Yeah. Mad Max, Fury Road, whatever it's called. We're going back to that.
So there you go. That comes back to answering that question of what to do. Social media.
Develop Force 10 charisma. Be the triple threat where you can actually be in Free Jack or Dune.
Right.
Get on the treadmill for an hour every day. and develop your TikTok game. These are the only things you can do for a career of longevity and success, really, isn't it?
And eat one meal a day. That's the other thing too. I swear these guys are, anytime I say, how these guys, stay so thin, they eat one meal a day. It's like a bowl of steam.
But that's intermittent fasting, isn't it? By definition, almost.
It is actually, yeah.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the entire conversation, the link to it is in the description here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, all the usual stuff. Justin Hawkins rides again. Again. Yeah.